Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, I'm Kiara and this is kind of my first time speaking to the camera like this face to face, and I haven't had a lot of practice, so I hope you bear with me. For this video, I really wanted to make a more personalized kind of discussion and show you a more personalized process because it was a commission that I really enjoyed. So the client's initial idea, he approached me in January of this year. His main idea was that he wants an A3 illustration of a natural setting that shows the relationships in nature: parasitism, mutualism, carnivores, herbivores, camouflage, mimicry, and he gave me full creative reign other than that prompt, which is a dream for any artist. Especially, I love to paint trees, I love to paint mushrooms and bugs. So my mind immediately went wild just reading the prompt. I was very excited. So the first thing I did was gather some references, search for even more relationships that exist in nature. When I did some research, I found a lot more cool things. One of that was commensalism, where one creature benefits and the other one is unaffected. An example of that is like a bird that sits on the cow and it gets food. The cow is unaffected. When I read that, an image started to form into my mind. I wanted the largest creature in there to be a large mammal, carnivorous mammal with horns and birds on the horns. Another really fun requirement by the client was that the illustration did not have to include creatures that exist in our world. They could be fantasy creatures from my imagination. Another relationship that I wanted to show in the illustration was mutualism, which is where both creatures benefit. An example of that is a bee and a flower. So the flower gets its pollen distributed and the bee gets pollen. So taking the inspiration of a fantasy creature, I wanted to draw something like that representing mutualism: a flower and a bee or a butterfly getting some benefit from the flower. Maybe its color, like a blue butterfly gets its color from a blue flower. Another relationship that I wanted to represent in this illustration was parasitism, and that's where one creature is harmed and the other creature is benefits. For example, a bug that eats away at a leaf. So I wanted to have some bugs, some parasites. Like when I say the word bug, the first thing you think of like a bug. That's what I wanted. I also found two more things that I wanted to add to this illustration, and one of that was some sort of defense mechanism. In nature, there's all types of creatures and plants and fungi have defense mechanisms, but I really like to draw a vine or bark with thorns, and that's a defense mechanism. And of course, another very important aspect of nature, of ecosystems, are decomposers, mushrooms, lichen. And for mimicry, there was a creature. This is a drawing from a few years ago of a bug. This creature is from my 2022 sketchbook, and I really don't remember where the idea for this creature came from. Ever since I drew it, I just didn't return to the sketch at all. And so seeing the prompt for mimicry needed in this illustration, I finally had the chance to use this drawing of this creature, the pumpkin bug. And this creature camouflages in pumpkin patches. Its body looks like a pumpkin. It mimics the look of a pumpkin to attract prey or to attract, and maybe a herbivorous creature like a monkey will think it's a pumpkin and attract it, and then the pumpkin bug will then attack. I was really happy with how the sketch turned out and the concept. Once sketching, it's just so, once there's like ideas already brewing in my head, it's so easy to sit down and sketch and let the idea take form itself. And I really enjoyed this one so much. In the sketch, the initial idea for the birds was they were going to be these tiny plumpy birds with really short beaks, and they look like they're up to something really mischievous, inspired by these finches that visit my home. I just like the idea of a huge mammal with long, majestic horns and these small, plumpy birds perched on the horns. I love stout looking round birds. While sketching, the idea for the border just happened by itself. I had no intention of doing a border or a pedestal, but as I drew, I realized I didn't want it just to be a scene. I wanted it maybe some storytelling there, that it's a scene on a scientific pedestal, maybe in a museum or a scientist's lair. I wanted it to look like a little bit of a scientific illustration, like it has a plaque and there's information on the plaque, something a viewer would read to learn about this ecosystem. So while I was working on this illustration, I was also taking some figure drawing lessons, and one of the venues had a bookstore, and the bookstore had gems, literal gems, and this is where I got these 4 books from. And these are all scientific natural encyclopedias and were amazing references for exactly what I needed. I would love to go through these books more in depth, maybe in another video. Here's some of a little bit information about it. This is the first one, Some Wildflowers of the Cape Province, Protected Wildflowers of the Cape Province, Western Cape of South Africa. These were all flora and fauna of the Southern Africa. And these were amazing references, a lot of references I used from here. The second book was Insects, Bugs. I love bugs. The next book was A Field Guide to the Birds of Southern Africa. And this had everything from pigeons and eagles, geese, ducks. And the last book is The Wildlife of Southern Africa. And this has a bunch of everything, from trees to mushrooms and flowers, mammals, lizards, insects, birds. So I spent a lot of time flipping through these 4 books and soaking up more references, more inspiration, because I feel Pinterest cannot be relied on anymore as a source of reference. So I rely on books, text descriptions as a base or reference to work from. This is how the final sketch turned out. I was really happy with it. I really enjoyed the sketch. It was just a simple pencil sketch, and the border, the idea was there. I was really excited to get started painting on it. So the first wash of paint was just very watered down yellow ochre, plain yellow ochre, and I painted this wash because I wanted to age the paper a little bit and make it look like old vintage parchment. And the best way I could think of doing that was laying down a really watery wash of yellow ochre. I have done that previously and I really like the effect of it. After that was dry, then I started working and blocking in the main colors, just blocking in and still working with a lot of water in the color mixture. The brush I used for the yellow ochre wash was a French aqua quill brush, and they carry a lot of water. And the brush I'm using now, I think it's also a quill brush, size 4, and it also carries quite a lot of water naturally. So I like to use this brush when I'm blocking in the watery layers, because I want to make sure that I can gradually build up layers, and in case I need to lift the color, in case I make any mistake or accidentally spilled some paint, then I can easily correct it because it's a very light layer. And watercolor is a game of layering. And the more I paint with watercolor, the more I appreciate that you're gonna have to do layer after layer after layer, and the more layers you have, the more beautiful the textures turn out and the colors look. And yeah, I appreciate that about watercolor. It just takes a long time and you have to wait for each layer to dry, especially this layers, the one where there's a lot of water in the mixture. It obviously takes much more longer to dry, but I enjoyed it. And here I'm still blocking in the main colors for the owl mammal figure, and I ended up adding some cheetah spots, and I wanted to make it look the cheetah spots showcase the camouflage. And then I added wings with some patterns on the wings. So that figure, that mammal, is full-on avian, with wings, with spots, with horns, with a beak. It's like a mixture of everything, like a griffin. And this flower was one of the pictures that I used as a reference from the protected wildflowers of the Cape Province. What a beautiful flower. I really enjoyed painting this flower and painting the entire border in general. Those vines, just so satisfying to paint, and it's in green, my favorite color. I did struggle a little bit with the wings, but I found a good reference photo and that I was trying my best to stay to. And of course, the mushrooms. I've painted so many mushrooms at this point, I don't even need a reference for it. I just get so carried away and enjoyed the whole thing. I added as much lichen as I could. The grasshopper figure at the top of the border is an especial favorite of mine. I really like the shape, and I drew long antennas with those long wings and the long body. I just really like that shape, and it camouflages on the vine. Some more bugs. You can never have enough bugs. And speaking of bugs, I also really enjoyed painting the pumpkin bug. Finally, the idea gets used somewhere, and I was just very proud of how the pumpkin turned out. I always forget to measure or to time how long an illustration takes or how long I painted for in a session, but I took my time with this painting, and after many tea breaks, let's just say it took, I think, about a week, but that was not painting this full time. I had a few other commissions while working on this at the same time. Those commissions had stricter deadlines than this one, so I had the pleasure or the privilege to actually be more flexible with this commission and just really enjoy the process. And actually I used it to wind down. And these are the stout birds that I was talking about. I spent a ridiculously long time on this just for fun because I really enjoyed it. I like their shape. I love how they turned out. I used the reference of a type of finch called a Java finch. I think, I forget, because I forgot what creatures I looked at and what creatures I referenced, but it was a kind of finch, and that was the shape that I wanted to go for. When it was time to do the title or the calligraphy of the painting, I went onto 1001 Fonts website and I looked for commercial free licenses, and I picked a font that was kind of very curly and looked like a beautiful script, and I just freehand copied that font. I wanted to hand illustrate the font, the title. Another thing I do while I'm painting now as a kind of certificate of authenticity is I make a little swatch on some watercolor paper of every single color that I mix to use for the illustration. The final swatch page is kind of like a certificate of authenticity. The title for this ended up being The Ecosystems of Your Imagination, which is a short story that I wrote in 2024 called Foolproof's Method for Traversing the Darkness. Each illustration in this book is accompanied by a short entry from somebody's journal. This forest wears its moons on its sleeves. You feel the bugs crawl its wings like harp strings. The ecosystems of your imagination exist here. So that's where I got the idea to title this painting The Ecosystem of Your Imagination. And that's what also went onto the plaque. And I was very excited to see how it all came together. This is how the final illustration turned out. It's one of my favorite paintings. The client has purchased the original painting, but thankfully he's given me the permission to make prints of it. It's going to be really hard to part with this painting, but it's completely worth it. It was my first client like this who also purchased the original and gave me such an amazing prompt to work with. This was one of the best commissions I had the pleasure to do, like I said in the beginning of the video, and I hope to do many more things like this. This made me very happy. Thank you for watching this video, and I really hope you enjoyed the process. I also hope it inspires you. Pick up your paints, your watercolors, whatever medium you use, and paint something today. Do some plein air painting or take a picture of an insect and paint that insect. Thank you so much for watching, and also let me know if you enjoyed my commentary speaking to the camera like this. I would love to do this more often. Remember to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.